Welcome to the channel, everybody. Let's get after it.
Opening portals in AI is slowly starting to become the theme of the music industry. What you're currently watching is a DJ called Enema, and he's doing his final run of shows titled The End of Genesis. He's made a name for himself because of the shocking visuals that he uses that usually are made of AI, and he's known for this one called The Siren, which you probably have seen before. But I want to talk about this visual in particular because this is Enema's AI robot thing opening up a portal. And the reason it's opening up a portal is because he is collabing with a DJ named Rez, and she is now introducing her series called Portals. So I looked into her recent Portal shows, and this is her intro of her literally opening up and walking into one. And then when the show plays, you're then flashed with many different kinds of them. Now, I've been to shows, but I've never been to anything like this. I don't know what the feeling of looking at one of these for hours would be, but I think it would be very similar to what this guy in the crowd wrote on his phone. And I'm telling you, it's not just EDM music. I mean, artist Melanie Martinez also had a Portals tour. The Weeknd uses this same AI looking figure in his past concerts. I mean, the symbolism is just everywhere.
I know we've looked at a lot of this type of stuff in the past, but I came across this and I just couldn't believe it. Is it not clearly obvious to everyone else that those are just hypnotic spirals? Every one of them looked like something they'd play at the start of a Twilight Zone episode. I'm surprised they don't start all these concerts by telling everybody to stare at the circle and relax. We've had theories for a while now that they're trying to put their audience under some sort of trance or something at these concerts because of this witch-like behavior. But I feel like this pretty much confirms that that is their intentions. I'm thinking this is the entire reason for the uptick in the whole portal theme in music. I would stay away from these concerts if I were y'all.
There's this thing, it's called the friendship case. Have you ever heard of this?
No.
The story is so weird and bizarre, really hard to believe. In 1956, there was these Italian men apparently found this map of this castle that was close to them. They got there, and these two, they said they looked like humans, but they weren't. One of them was 10 feet tall, and the other one was 3 feet tall.
Stooges.
They were aliens. They went by W56. But apparently these alien people, they have these underground bases, they said. They've been here for centuries. They even have bases in the ocean. Their whole purpose of being on Earth is to save humanity from themselves, especially regarding nuclear bombs.
Yeah, fair.
But apparently there's 100 witnesses to these people. And there's photo evidence and video evidence of them showing them their flying saucers. But they said the only way that their technology works is if there is friendship and love.
What?
So like, we're not experiencing love within humanity or friendship or compassion. They said our technology doesn't work.
That's really cute.
It's like Santa's sleigh.
But they said that there's another group of aliens that have been here since they've been here, the CTR, basically their enemies. And it says they are described as materialistic and strictly scientific, more cold and calculated. Witnesses have depicted the CTR as human-like, often bald, and seen driving dark Mercedes limousines in Italy, reminiscent of the Men in Black phenomena reported elsewhere.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I had never heard of this one before, and there's a documentary about it that says the extraordinary story of mass alien contact that has been kept secret for half a century. For almost 20 years, a group of extraterrestrials contacted hundreds of people with a number of strange requests. The project was called Friendship. The people involved were taken on board multiple UFOs and also shown alien bases on Earth. These people are of high social and cultural importance. Among them, the Italian diplomat Alberto Perego. I'm watching that documentary tonight. I'll report back in tomorrow's video if I feel like it's worth the money. I watched the trailer for this and it claims that it's going to reveal all of the photographs and all the video footage that they took for evidence of this. And it's only $5.
One of the most asked questions here is who filmed the craft leaving the moon in 1972? Who filmed the Apollo 17 lunar module leaving the moon? NASA says it was a Westinghouse color TV camera mounted on the lunar rover and remotely controlled from Earth. This happened in 1972 during the final Apollo mission. According to NASA, an operator at Mission Control in Houston anticipated the launch, manually tilting the camera upwards to follow the ascent, despite a 1.3-second delay in signals between Earth and the moon. But here's where things don't add up. How did a NASA operator perfectly track a rocket launch with 1970s technology and a delay? Even modern space feeds struggle with lag today. If the camera had a pre-programmed movement, why don't we see this level of precision in modern space missions? And what about the lunar dust? Why wasn't there a massive cloud kicked up by the engine blast? Then there's the power source. The camera was battery-powered, using silver zinc batteries. But how did they survive the extreme lunar temperatures and function flawlessly at the exact right moment? And what happened after the lunar module left? NASA says the camera kept broadcasting for about 4 minutes before they lost the signal. Forever. They never got that signal back. No more live footage was ever transmitted from the moon. No other camera was left running, and we've never seen high-quality continuous footage of the moon after Apollo ended. Convenient? And the final point, just look at it, please. Look at it. So, was this an incredible technical achievement or something else?
I think it's hilarious that the more you dig into the moon landing, the more you start to see that it breaks down from literally every angle you look at it from. The craft made no sense, the camera made no sense, the live phone call with President Nixon made no sense, even the atmosphere we see them walking around in the video doesn't line up with what mainstream science tells us we should have been seeing. I think we deserve to get some answers from NASA about what actually took place back in 1969. Is it not that lie that still to this day allows them to spend nearly $7 million US tax dollars a day? I feel like we should get the truth if we're the ones paying for it. Hey, don't forget to click like and subscribe if you haven't already, and check out my merch store at barry-stepp.com.
You know a photo is seriously creepy when a podcast tells you, hey, stop listening to the podcast and go take a look at this photo. This is exactly what happened when I was listening to Radio Rental. This woman was telling about this photo that she captured that was really strange. And in the middle of the podcast, the producers interrupt the show and go, pause and go to the Instagram and look at this. So this woman calls in and talks about her experience when she went to Hawaii to run a 100-miler. Apparently, she's been doing these 100-milers since she was 14. She was now 35 when she was doing this in Hawaii. I mean, honestly, I thought that was the terrifying thing. The fact that she's running 100 miles voluntarily, and then the one in Hawaii, you had to run it in 36 hours. 5 laps, a 20-mile loop, and they call it the Hurt 100 because they had ankle-breaking terrain. Also, when it would rain, it got really, really slippery. But she emphasizes she has never not finished a 100-miler. Her boyfriend couldn't go with her, so she brings her best friend along, which was a great thing because on the 4th lap, she was having some problems. So she asked her friend, hey, come run with me, keep me company. And by this time, the runners have really fallen off. So most of the time she's running alone. It's just her and her friend. And it was really early in the morning and the sunset was rising and it was really beautiful. So her friend, who is a photographer, started taking pictures of this beautiful sunrise. All of a sudden, she experienced a sharp pain in her foot, enough to make her stop. She thought maybe that she could just power through it, but she could not. And it wasn't only her foot. She said everything in her body was telling her to stop, 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 stop. And she said it wasn't really about the pain in her foot. She just said everything in her body was telling her, you can't finish, you can't finish. She started feeling nauseous, and eventually she pulls out of the race. Her and her friend go back to the Airbnb, and her friend is sending all these beautiful shots to her mom. Her mom then messages her and goes, who's that person running in front of your friend? And of course, they're like, there was nobody. It was early in the morning. Most people had dropped out. So they decided to look through their pictures, and here's what they saw. So this is the shot that her mom was talking about. As you can see, she's right behind her friend who's running, and ahead of the trail is something that they did not see while they were running. And as you zoom in, you could see more detail. Now it kind of looks like a person. It doesn't look like a fellow runner. And even more terrifying is the live shot. See how this person just kind of comes up from the brush. When they posted it, a lot of people say it is the lore of the Night Marcher. I don't know too much about the lore of the Night Marcher in Hawaii. If you do, please comment, and also tell me what you think. What did they encounter? And is this responsible for the heavy feeling that she was having about not continuing the run?
I've never heard of the lore of the Night Watcher, but I have an overwhelming feeling that they are missing an obvious explanation here. This was difficult terrain, it was muddy out, everything was slippery. I think a runner up ahead of them probably slipped and fell down the hill, and they just caught a glimpse of them on camera when they were standing up out of the brush all covered in mud. It literally looks like a lady all covered in mud from head to toe. And she certainly looks creepy, so I can absolutely see why people are letting their imagination run wild with this one. But her hair even looks like it's matted to the side of her head. I think the aggressive facial expression is just an indication that she's not really having the greatest day. What do y'all think about this one?
A simple test to just see this is to close your eyes for about 5 minutes in the sun and then open your eyes. And what you'll see is you'll see all these little spirals taking place. That's the ether spiraling the entire time. The ether atom right here, the etheric atom, and that's what ether looks like. All different types of vortices. It's interesting because when you look up a picture of an atom, I find it. There's actually no. This is a funny one too. You know, this is a whole nother rabbit hole, which we'll have to do a video on. But there we go. That's what's actually happening. And this is why when you start to think about what the ether actually is, it's the vortices of the noble gases which are spinning at all different times. A simple test to just see this is to close your eyes for about 5 minutes in the sun and then open your eyes. And what you'll see is you'll see all these little spirals taking place. That's the ether spiraling the entire time. Now, they will tell you that the ether was debunked by a USPS post-office worker named Einstein, and also the Morley-Robbins experiment also debunked the ether. The Rockefellers and the Rothschilds and the paid people to debunk. Because when you get into the whole situation with the ether, you begin to learn about how there's unlimited energy all around us.
I'm not convinced that the ether has been debunked. I think we've got plenty of technological developments being toyed with right now that could only be explained by the ether. Besides that, everything you investigate in this world appears to give off energy. We have these energy ley lines all over the earth connecting these energy hotspots. We've got volcanoes giving off energy. Our ocean's currents can be converted to energy. Wind, solar, so on and so on. Why would we not at least assume that there's a possibility that there's energy in the atmosphere all around us as well? It seems like the one thing we fight over the most, energy resources, which is fought over for its scarcity, but it appears to be the most abundant resource that exists. It's literally everywhere. You just have to know how to harness it.
I took a break from researching conspiracies and I found out that Pocahontas was possessed by shadow people. Are you ready for this one? Because I seriously, I don't know what I found. This is Irene. She was the voice actress for the Disney princess Pocahontas.
Who are you?
I'm the voice of Pocahontas.
That's the beginning of a video of her getting arrested in a mental health facility 4 years ago. Apparently she had some mental health issues and was spending some time at a mental health facility when she started going crazy and they called the cops, and this is from the body cam footage of the arresting officer. And I'm not going to show the whole video here because it's kind of long, but you can go look it up. And there's one point in the video that I cannot explain. Check this out. Okay, so she starts retreating from the police officer, and just watch the hallway when she goes down the hallway.
Does this work?
I don't know what that is.
It's your silver.
What was that? Here, I'll slow it down for you, and I'll zoom in, because I don't know what that is either, Irene. It looks like a shadow person just popped out of the floor and ran through the wall. Either a shadow person, shadow demon, or a Devas, as some people might know it. But
I don't know what that is.
It's your cell phone.
I don't know what that is.
It's your cell.
most of these ghost videos and paranormal videos I can explain pretty easily. Usually it's just a camera malfunction or some fancy editing or a lens flare or something, or just a shadow, but it comes from nowhere and then disappears through a wall, and it looks like and if you know anything about shadow people or shadow demons or Davis or whatever, they're mainly electromagnetic energy and can interfere with frequency, but you can hurt them with electricity. So the officer was getting ready to tase her, so the thing might have jumped out of her because he's like, I don't want to don't tase me, bro. And then if you go watch the video, she then runs towards the officer, and he thinks she's like gonna attack him or elope, but to me it looks like she's like, help me, I don't know what that is. And I don't know. Like, she also smoked, so there's that. I mean, like, she was in a mental health facility, and there are shadows. They don't always have to be demons. I don't know. Help.
I can't remember if I put this clip in a video or if I just watched it 10 times and decided against it. I'm hoping that I did and you all have seen the longer clip and know what happened after that. I feel like he left a lot of the best part out, which was her reaction. I wanted to add this because I feel like with the added context, this clip just became much more believable. If you saw this one before and wrote it off, what do you think about it now? Did these added details convince you that something paranormal is going on here? And I don't have an opinion on what he was talking about there at the end about shadow figures inhabiting your body. I don't know nothing about any of that.
Had the opportunity over the years to interview, again, people who have worked at the test site at Groom Lake. One gentleman spent 12 of his 30 years in black programs at Groom Lake. When I asked him, I said, first of all, I said, do you believe in UFOs? And he looked at me with a straight face in one-on-one. He said, absolutely, positively, they do exist. I said, can you expand upon that? And he said, no, I can't. About a year later, we were talking about, again, activities at Groom Lake. And I asked him, I said, you know, can you really tell me what's happening out there? And he said, well, there's a lot of things that are going on there that I won't be able to tell you until the year 2025. But we have things in the Nevada desert that would make George Lucas envious. Another individual who was an NCO, an E9, which is the highest grade you can get as an enlisted man. He's a chief master sergeant in the Air Force. Was a safety specialist. He had 3 different tours of duty at Groom Lake on various programs. Now, he had no connection with my friend who worked on other black programs. We were talking. I interviewed him at Nellis in 1985, 86 time frame. And I said, what's out there? And again, he looked me straight in the eye and he said, we have things out there that are literally out of this world. I said, explain. He said, I can't.
I have no way of knowing how truthful this is, but it seems to be yet another piece of evidence pointing toward there being a planned rollout of this alien phenomenon. I can't make my mind up yet if I think that the aliens are forcing the hand of the U.S. government and other world governments, telling them we're going to reveal ourselves, so you better come out and tell everybody anyway, or if that's just what they want us to think and the whole thing is fake. Clearly they were trying to get us all hyped up at the beginning of the year over this stuff with the whole New Jersey incident. They were flying those drones around for weeks and just letting those people freak out for no reason. But they had a reason. They were gauging reactions and seeing what people were saying about it online. I think that whole event was done just to study us so that they can plan it better in the future.
What if I told you the universe is only here because you exist to observe it? So this book right here is The Anthropic Cosmological Principle, written by Frank Tipler, who is a mathematical physicist, and John Barrow, who is a physicist and cosmologist. This book sets out to explore one of the deepest questions in cosmology. Why is the universe seemingly so perfectly fine-tuned for life? They speak to the strength of gravity. If it was slightly stronger, stars would burn out too quickly and collapse before life could be formed. Slightly weaker and stars wouldn't form properly, meaning no planets, no complex chemistry, no life being formed. If there was a tiny variance in electromagnetism, life could not be created. The same with strong nuclear force, the same with weak nuclear force. The ratio of electrons to proton mass, the balance between matter and antimatter, cosmological constant, which is the constant that controls the expansion of the universe. If any of these were even slightly off, life would not exist. So back to the question, why does the universe seem so perfectly tuned for life? First option is the weak anthropic principle, or WAP, W-A-P. WAP simply states that the universe allows for observers, otherwise we wouldn't be here to observe it. It's not hard for you to understand that you live on a planet that allows for life, because if you didn't, you wouldn't exist. Of all the possible universes that you could exist in, you exist in the one where life could emerge, because otherwise you wouldn't exist. Next one is the SOP, the strong anthropic principle. The universe was not randomly suitable, but it was bound to be this way. Religion, people would say God created this so that we could exist. Other interpretations, it's just simply that the universe is so precisely constructed that life was inevitable to emerge. And they propose a third in their book, which is called the FAP, the Final Anthropic Principle. Not to be confused with NoFap, but FAP simply states that once intelligent life emerges, it can never be fully extinguished. It can never fully die out. In fact, that intelligent life will take control of its cosmic evolution, which potentially leads to a future where intelligence actually begins to shape the universe itself. It's a really fascinating book that connects physics, philosophy, and even esoteric ideas about consciousness, reality, the constructs that we live within. Key takeaways: that the universe is precisely designed for life, like so precisely that it is not logical to think that it came about by accident, right? Occam's razor. 2, observers are necessary for creation to exist. The observer collapses into reality, creation. And 3, the final destiny of intelligence could be to take control of cosmic evolution. And it's 3. It 100% is 3. All the friction, all the chaos that's going on, that's just the contractions before birth. That's just the friction within the cocoon before the emergence. Ask yourself, if the earth is a womb, and if this chaos, this friction you're feeling is the push and pull that is necessary for birth, what is being birthed?
I have one question that comes to mind, and I can only think of one logical answer to that question. If our universe is so finely tuned that life is inevitable, then why, when we have mainstream science telling us that we've been here at least 315,000 years, how is there not more than one species of intelligent life? Why are we the only ones if it's so inevitable? I think the only logical answer is that this place is set up to be inhabitable, maybe even inevitable for animal life, since we have so many examples of that existing here, but not set up for intelligent life to be inevitable. I think that happened through intervention. Whether that intervention came from aliens or God is up for you to decide. But I think it's obvious for that reason alone that we aren't all here by chance.
Guys, I've just been made aware of an archaeological find that has pushed back the timeline of human history by thousands of years. So one of my followers DM'd me on Instagram to say that there had been an archaeological finding of iron weapons and tools that date back over 5,000 years. So the find was in Tamil Nadu, which is in southern India, right next to Sri Lanka. And we're not talking like primitive iron tools and weapons either. We're talking about properly smelted metallurgy swords that are dating 5,300 years old. That's around 3,200 BC. That is so old. Now, why is this really cool and interesting? Because you see, there's a thing called the Stone Age, the Bronze Age, and the Iron Age. And the Iron Age, traditionally, wasn't supposed to start until 1,200 BC. These artifacts have been found and carbon dated. The area has been carbon dated and luminescence dated, and they both turned out giving the same dates, to being 2,000 years older. So these people in southern India were smelting and using iron tools when apparently the rest of like Europe and that side of the world was still on like stone stuff and bronze stuff. This is really interesting, because you have sites in India, well, all over the world, but ancient sites in India, like the Barabar caves, where when you're making hypotheses and theories about how stone could be carved and manipulated, well, we're like, well, in the historical toolbox, we don't have anything other than copper for that time, or we don't have anything other than a bronze tool. But now we know that we can get smelted iron tools. That's where you can get things like steel and like really super hard metals. So this is exciting. We're also kind of lucky that we've found this, because metals, they only have like a longevity of a couple thousand years before they will disintegrate into nothing. Like they say that if like a Tesla car was just left out in the elements, it would, within 5,000 years, it would just be gone. There'd be dust. There'd be like nothing. Poof. Now there is evidence of ancient civilizations using meteoric iron, which is iron that's already made out of space, lands in a meteor, because like in ancient Egypt they could manipulate little like beads of iron, but there wasn't any evidence yet that they could smelt it or make it. Well, as in yet, I mean until now, because they do know that the dudes over in India had already cottoned on how the frick to do this. I'm just going to give you guys more of the study results. So in the lab studies, it's saying here 95.4% probability that the site that they found the artifacts on was between 3,200 and 3,100 BC. 95% probability. And again, here's the luminescence testing, which says 4,400 plus or minus 400 BP. It's confusing because they use BP, which is like before present, and BC, which is from the year 0. So, but even so, the maths is mathing. It's working out from around the same time period, whichever one you want to use. So yeah, this is really big news. This is really exciting because I don't know. It's a game of probability and statistics. So, if a community over in southern India in 3,300 BC could work out how to smelt metals and make iron swords and steel swords and things, what are the chances that another group of humans in another part of the earth also did the same thing? We just haven't found it yet. And there could be so many tools and weapons that we literally can't even conceive yet because we haven't found them. And when we do, it might make a whole load of the weird mysteries in ancient history, the weird artifacts, like how were these made? We might be on track to find them, but we'll find the tools that made them. Sorry, it's late. I'm very excited. But, wow, okay, so Bronze Age, officially, can now be dated from 3,200 BC. It's kind of... might have to start sliding all of it back.
I think the one field of science and research that I could never work in would be archaeology. There are just too many assumptions being made that you're expected to go along with, and nobody seems to be interested in doing anything other than backing up their own theories. Nobody wants to find the actual truth. Even the governments of the world, for some reason, don't seem to be interested in finding out the truth of our history. Just imagine what we could learn if they started letting us uncover the pyramids of China or mapping out the Grand Canyon caves or something. It seems like they've either learned enough about a place to decide that they want to hide it from us, or they just don't care enough about our history to spend the resources necessary to try to figure it out. I think if I ever get told by my doctor that I've only got a few months to live or something, I'm going to go buy a paramotor and I'm going to see what's in the Grand Canyon before I leave this place. But guys and gals, I'm going to go ahead and end the video right there. I hope you enjoyed these clips we watched together today. I'll be back tomorrow with another video. I hope you come back to join me. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and check out my merch store at barry-stepp.com. And don't forget to drop a photo of your merch over in the Discord to get your photo in a video. And with all that out of the way, I hope everyone's having a great, safe, fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you all tomorrow.